monthly meeting to order at 9:07 a.m. Tori, can you say the prayer, please?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Heavenly Father, we come to you in a word of prayer this morning. We thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the opportunity to come to work today and gather and do the tribe's business, Lord. We thank you for this new year we just celebrated and this renewal and refreshing feeling that is in the air to do better for the tribe and for our families and ourselves, Lord. We thank you for all the grace and mercy that you've shown us throughout this last year, Lord. We ask for those continued blessings as we approach 2019 with opportunity and goodwill for the tribe and the people. Lord, we ask that you bless all those in need of a prayer, in need of a hope and willingness to do better for their families and each other, Lord. And we just ask that we come together today and do good things, and we ask all these things in your precious Son, Jesus' name, amen.
You know. Thank you, Tori. Okay, we have the agenda in front of us. Is there any additions to the agenda or changes?
Travel. That, you just on, will that authorized travel, will that be part of that land transfer update?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you bring that memo, Tori?
I was going to see if she sent it because
Yeah,
as of
it
Friday.
came in.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah, I read it this morning.
I'll print it then. I was just kind of waiting for that to come through because it didn't come as of Friday when I put
Mr.
my
Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Yeah, I believe that's the one.
Second.
A motion second to approve the agenda as presented. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 7-0-0. Reading of the minutes, December 3rd, 2018, regular tribal council.
Make a motion to accept December 3rd, 2018 regular tribal council meeting minutes. To approve.
Second.
Been motion second to approve the minutes of December 3rd, 2018. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0. Reading of the minutes, December 12th, 2018. CEO report.
To approve December 12th CEO report and minutes.
Second. Been a motion second to approve the minutes of December 12th, 2018. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0. Reading of the minutes, December 28th, 2018, Treasurer's Report.
Second.
Been motion second to approve the minutes of December 28, 2018. Discussion.
Probably just need to add, on the Winnebago's power, just add in there general fund. Halfway house near Sabari Power,
It's in there, Jim.
is it? Okay, good.
Yeah. Kenny made the motion to fund the 2019 New Year's
Okay.
Security Power for 11,500 from general fund. Not to exceed 15,000.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0. Ratify 5 signatures, the enrollment committee, advertise upcoming vacancy.
Motion to ratify enrollment committee advertising upcoming vacancies. Vacancy one. Okay.
Been motion, is there a second?
Second.
Been motion second to ratify enrollment committee, advertise upcoming vacancies. Discussion. Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0. Ratify 5 signature, adopt resolution 19-42. Are you reading this?
Second.
Motion to adopt.
Ratify. Need a second?
Yep.
Been motion second to ratify resolution 19-42. Discussion. Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0. Ratify Eugene Decora matching fund request.
I'm having Lily grab some. Voucher?
Motion to ratify matching funds request.
That's 14-year-4.
Oh,
I'll second that.
Then motion second to ratify 5 signature Eugene Decora matching fund request. Discussion.
Where did they go?
They had a basketball tournament.
Where?
It was here, somewhere here in town, was it?
Arizona.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, down south.
Arizona. Did they win it?
Yeah,
I think they won. I think they won it too.
Any further discussion?
Should put that in the minutes.
Any objections? They won it.
They won it.
They won it.
Exclamation point.
No objections, motion passed, 8-0. New business, Pam Adams. She's been waiting 2 months.
Oh, it's all right. We're very patient. Well, first of all, thank you for agreeing to have us come speak to you here today. I am Pam Adams. I'm the marketing director at American Broadband. This is Shane Morris. He's our network operations manager, and Don Archer, our outside plant manager. And on an annual basis, we are required to give an update to our tribal council communities on what has been happening in the community, as well as take any questions. So what I'm going to do is have Shane talk a little bit about what's been happening with the network, specifically in your areas, where as well as throughout our market area, and then obviously Dawn can talk about some of the projects we've done over the last year.
Yeah, so again, my name is Shane Morris, and appreciate the time this morning. We continue to work hard to push as much improvements as we can in the areas in Winnebago, not just Winnebago, and all of our tribal lands that we serve. We've done significant improvements over the course of the last several years. We've seen an improvement in the speeds that consumers are taking for speeds. Throughout our territories, we have seen improvement, and this follows suit for the Winnebago tribe also. Last year at this time, we had less than 5% of our customers on a 25 meg package or higher. At this point, we're up to 35% of our consumers are in 25 meg or higher, so a definitely significant improvement. We still have complete redundancy through our network for providing those services, and have seen an increase of, since this time last year, an increase of 40% of usage of internet. That also follows suit here in Winnebago, usage of internet across our network. So a significant increase in not only what we can provide, because we are able to provide up to 100 meg packages in the tribe where the technology allows it, and 50 meg and 25 meg. We see quite a few people take those packages on. And we've seen that usage increase at the edge. We do have significant bandwidth at the edge to be able to allow for significant increases in usage, so we're well positioned to be able to provide continued improvements in speeds and packages and usage across our network. So we're pretty excited about the growth that we've seen over the last year, and look forward to continuing to provide a bigger and more far-reaching footprint as we go through not just this last year, but also in continuing years, with the ultimate goal to be able to get fiber to as many people as possible. Our focus will obviously be fiber to towns first, and we've started here in Winnebago with working towards getting all the businesses to fiber, and we'll continue to do that work. And as we start to wrap up the business segment, we'll start to move towards residential in the near future. So that's kind of where we're at as far as a build-out perspective goes. I'll go and kind of hand it over to Don. I know we've got some projects coming up with the sewer work coming up and the roundabout coming up. We've got a lot of stuff kind of in the works. So
some of the direction we went this year, as far as fiber, we've got fiber now at the Girls and Boys Club, fire station, senior center, WIC clinic, tribal court. We had the old Walker pipe, but we'll wait that to be rebuilt again. So we're all, this whole south leg is pretty much cut over to fiber. And like I Shane said one of the big projects we'll have coming up is the sewer project going down 77. We're working hand in hand there. And then the north roundabout, on the north end of town that they're gonna put in. Our cabinets in lane 1 is what I've been told. So, we're gonna have to get that moved and set that back out of the way. And we're hoping at that point also, once we set that cabinet, we provide fiber to the Ho-Chunk village up there. And get that fiber to everybody that wants it up there. That's kind of our projects we've worked on this year and we'll continue to work on.
Yeah, the roundabout is obviously a big focus of ours. We've done some preliminary work with the state to try to figure out exactly where they're going. We've got some design stuff planned out, got some equipment on hand ready, and we're going to be starting that here within the next couple of weeks to kind of prep for that big project. It's going to be a pretty massive project here, as I'm sure you're well aware.
And just to kind of touch on, as far as from a PR perspective, our support of the tribe, we continue to support as many community events as we're able to. We obviously on an annual basis provide free internet to powwow grounds for the annual powwow celebration. The other things that we do is we try to get up here at least a couple times a year to do a mobile office, and this allows us to share information with residents up here about our Lifeline program, provide them the ability to sign up for services, things like that. And the other thing that we also did do recently is we were at the high school. Don and I were, along with his son Brett Archer, and we've sponsored a half-court shot contest at the halftime of the Winnebago Omaha Nation basketball game. We come very close, not quite, but whoever made the half-court shot was able to get a year of free internet service. So we're trying to do some of those things as well too, as far as outreach.
Kenny, so you messed up.
So any questions at all that we can, or concerns?
For the lifelines for the elderly, what is that? What is the cost for that?
Well, I'm not nearly as much of an expert on Lifeline as Christian is, who works for me. The way Lifeline has traditionally worked, it used to be just for phone service. So by the time the Lifeline credits kicked in, the cost of a phone line was running you basically a couple bucks a month. What the FCC has now seen is that data or internet is probably more important in many cases than a phone line. So what they're now doing is they're allowing you to take those credits and instead of using them on phone service, using them on internet service. So your cost on an internet circuit, I want to say after the Lifeline credits ends up being about $25 to $30 a month, which is really very, very affordable. So it's given people the ability to choose what's really the service that I want to get the credits on. I mean, for some probably older customers that may not have internet, having that phone line is very important. So it still exists. I know that there has been talk about getting to the point where those credits are for internet service only. We're hoping they still will exist for phone because I still think that there are a number of customers that, maybe having an internet connection is not as important as having that phone line.
And the other part of that when they transition to data, one of the stipulations they put in the Lifeline is we provide the fastest speed we can at that site. So when everybody signs up for Lifeline, it's not hey, you're only going to get 10 meg, you're only going to get 5, you're going to get the fastest speed we can get to that location. I believe up to 25 meg.
Yes.
So fastest speed we can get up to 25 meg. So if you're paying $20 to $25 for 25 meg, that's about $1 a meg, which is down around wholesale prices. It's cheaper than what a lot of internet providers can get it for. So for a consumer, that's a pretty good price for the service.
Yeah, at one time the tribe had received a grant, for our elders, where most of them were signed up, and then after that grant ended, then they had to pick up the cost themselves for all this.
Well, one of the things that we did do, and it's been probably a couple of years, is that we responded to a grant with probably 4 or 5 other telecommunications companies in Nebraska similar in size to us through the Public Service Commission. And what the focus was of the grant was educating certain populations on basically broadband, introduction to broadband. And the communities that we specifically picked were our tribal communities, Winnebago, Mason, Mills Hill. And we came up and we did just some basic training classes. I know that we did a couple at the senior center that were very well attended. And part of the funding for that grant also funded 10 Chromebooks. And at the end of that, we actually did a drawing for anybody that attended and gave those away. And so it was very well received as far as, it's always to me really, exciting to see people that maybe haven't used the internet to get online and see things that, we kind of sometimes take for granted as far as searching for directions to somewhere or whether they find that to be really empowering. So we hope to continue to do some things like that as well too.
Yeah, and Pam and her group does a really good job of keeping our eye out for any of those kinds of programs that come along that we can take advantage of as a telecommunications company to assist all of our communities, including obviously the tribe as we have in the past. So we always try to keep an eye out for anything that comes along that would benefit any of our communities and try to jump on those and get certified so we can take advantage of them.
Yeah, because of our elders being on fixed incomes, sometimes it's a little, you have to make that decision.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times, that's the only opportunity that our elders have, because they have somebody from the college come down and get the workshops on the internet and computers and things like that. Then they have their ones set up down there.
Yeah.
And they can sign up to get on their computer and things like that. But then once they go home, they're all awfully good.
Well, we're finding that it's more and more important, not just here in Winnebago, but in all of our communities, especially if there's a library in town, to make sure that they have as fast a speed as possible, because not everybody has access to internet at home, and so to be able to have as fast as possible connection to someplace like a library, where that connection can be open and people can use that is extremely important. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Any questions?
Esther?
Yes.
When will 100 meg be available to the residents?
It is available today, but it's only in certain footprint. It's not to everybody yet. So if somebody's interested in 100 meg, they can call in and see if we can get it to them. It says we're available.
Because I live in Winnebago and I called last week and asked, and I was told it wasn't available yet.
Okay. It should be available. It may not be available to your home. I'm not sure where you live. So it's a distance-based thing because of the technology. So it just maybe you might be a little too far away from where the cabinet is serving from. But it is available in our island towns. Primarily, we've been focused on 50 meg because we can get that a little farther out. But 100 meg should be available.
I was told only 25 meg was available.
Okay. I will follow up and find out and ensure that.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for making the time to come up.
Okay, well, thank you. For your third time's always a charm, so thank you.
Takes a while.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Hi, Teresa.
Okay, next item, new business, adopt resolution, support Winnebago Comprehensive Healthcare Systems Health Kids 2019 proposal.
This is a proposal by the hospital over here. And so as a part of that, and what we're trying to do out of the Planning and Development Office is make certain that when we're doing a proposal with the Winnebago Comprehensive Healthcare System, that we bring those resolutions forward so that you here at the table can support those. proposals because they do go forth from them as a entity. This particular project will provide 2 positions to work with families to ensure that the kids are on either Medicaid or the comprehensive healthcare insurance program that's offered through the state. It's an important piece at this point. We know our numbers are showing that 63% of kids are on some type of an insurance program. We're going to shoot to have 83% of the kids on within a 3-year period. This is really important for the cash flow for 12 clans and the healthcare system over there, in that as the kids are reimbursing, it'll not only lighten and make the cash flow for the hospital a regular thing, it'll lower the cost for the PRC, and it also has the ability of making certain that when parents are facing a healthcare decision for their kids, that they're not having to decide, is it going to be groceries or clothes, or is it going to be the health care of my child because I hadn't signed up yet. There's usually, they can go back a few months if it is a serious type of thing, but that way they're not having to weigh those things and go back through it. And these 2 staff positions will be supportive of what the outreach workers at the hospital already do. So it'll just kind of help move that up and make the PRC program run a little more smoothly, less burden there, that type of thing. So that's what the project's for.
Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
And motion second to adopt resolution 1944. Discussion. Any objections?
So this is gonna enroll our children in Medicaid and stuff? Okay.
It'll provide the parents with the support they need if they're needing to get, for example, a birth certificate for part of the documentation to enroll. This project will help them with those costs. It'll have somebody that'll help them through that process.
Any further discussion or questions?
How long do you think it's gonna take before you have a significant number or count on our young people enrolled in this?
Our goal is, as I said, going from 63 to 83. So we really kind of broke that up from a goal perspective to increase it by 7% each year to get there. The other important thing to know is the first year of the project is a heavy concentration on the kids from the Winnebago community that receive services at the Winnebago Comprehensive Health, or at 12 plans and healthcare system there. And then from there, we're also looking at the broader service area of the kids. So there'll be some outreach activities for the kids in Sioux City and the kids in South Sioux, that type of thing, that receive services down there, so that we're making certain that all the kids, as much as possible, are on that, regardless of where they're from, as long as they're looking at receiving services down there.
I got a question, Chairman. Did you say this will provide 2 positions?
Yes,
For how many years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
One time, yeah?
Pardon?
One time?
Yes, as far as I know, it may be one of those things that can be renewed, but I'm not aware of that, Curtis, to say for certain. I would envision, based on how this one's set up, that it would be a renewable one, so we'll see.
Yeah, to move forward with providing services for the community, then, you know, you get that reputation of providing that good service, that way the ones that are on, they will choose Winnebago to go.
Exactly.
Because with that thing now, I know a lot of the children that are on Medicaid, they go to, Prairie Pediatrics or Pender or something like that. Like, if we can bring them in to use our own facility, but we would also be able to get that revenue.
Exactly, exactly.
Any other discussion or questions? Got a motion second to adopt resolution 19-44. Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0-0.
Thank you.
Old business, none. Tribal council items. KM approved travel for K. Maury wiring the res innovative strategies for business development, Chandler, Arizona, on January 31st to February 1st, 2019.
Move it, authorizing travel
Second.
for Kenny to attend.
Then motion second,
Second.
authorizing travel for K. Maury to Chandler, Arizona. Discussion? Any objections?
Who's second?
I did.
Wrong.
No objections, motion passed 8-0-0.
Thank you.
Bring some sand back. Item 2, JS approved travel for J. Snow Durango Radio Fact Gathering, Durango, Colorado, January 23rd, 24th, 2019.
Move it.
Second.
May not have to, as far as travel for that trip, because Murray from the college is real critical, and because of his background and what's going to be required for the electronics and all of that stuff like that. And him and Eleanor are the main one that need to go on that trip. But with the damage being done up to Little Breeze, he's really involved in taking care of some of the equipment that was damaged. And they're doing that assessment. Insurance guy came down, so then with our budget being tight, and I don't know if I need to be there. The main one is Eleanor and Maury. And then I just asked Joy if she would check with the college grant writers to look at what's available through the University of Nebraska Extension Program, because when we talked to the Santee, that's where some of their funding for when they first got their radio station was a grant from UNL Extension Department.
Mr. Chairman, I have never really weighed in on us getting this radio station as a gift, and I didn't want to be, I don't know what words to use. I didn't want to look a gift horse in the face, but I always felt all along that they're giving this to us for some reason, and it isn't because they love us. It's really because there's a lot of expenses to maintain a radio station and jump through all the hoops of the federal communication. But I said nothing because I didn't want to discourage it. But Jim just brought out today the expenses of it, and we don't know how much longer it'll go. And if we're cutting expenses, I see what else I'm supposed to say. No, I'm just, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I don't know when we're gonna finally realize that maybe this wasn't the best gift ever given to us. People have gotten gifts and they've been bombs in them, and the expense of it just keeps continuing to grow, and we don't have a radio station yet. So I'm not gonna, if I can't help it, I'm not gonna hurt it. But that's my opinion on that radio station. I don't want to dampen the I think we got some better things coming up. You'll catch my total support on when we start going into this cannabis and hemp production. I'm more excited about that than trying to keep this radio station coming into our community. That's just my comment. I'm not gonna vote no on anything, but I'm not gonna vote yes on this either.
There was a motion second, and Jim was discussing this.
Yeah.
Are you,
Well, I probably wouldn't go because what Eleanor is gonna do over there, she has what it costs to staff the Santee facility, and then she said that information is 5 years old, and then when they go out to Durango, she will talk to them about their cost of the operation, and then she's also gonna ask maybe if they have some equipment on some of the stations, you know, and what happens with the Santee station is they hook up to the internet, so you can go on the internet and you can pull up their station on the internet. You know, because you can't pick it up, unless you're because of the hills and stuff out in western Nebraska, but you can use your internet and then Google the Santee radio station, then you can pick it up that way. But as far as looking this thing and trying to look at what the cost of the expense to get this operational, that's what we're trying to find out. Give us a hard number of what we're trying to do here. Like I said, if there's funds and grants available to the tribe, you need to have Joy and then the people at the college go ahead and research those opportunities. Eleanor, and then like I said, I don't know if Maury can make it, but he could probably hook in on a conference call once they get out there. And she'll visit their other facilities because they have 7 radio stations, and then they might have some equipment they'd be willing to sell us at a discount.
Maybe that's where we need to go, is Santee, if they've done it and did it.
They talked to them already.
They talked to them,
Yeah,
so.
we talked to their people that run the station, the grant writers, and so we had that discussion already. Sheila and Eleanor and Sarah.
So he's not going?
I think what Kenny brought out is something that we need to probably discuss and think more about, is the operational cost of this operation. How we're gonna support it. It's great that we have the equipment and to get the license for it. But, taking it a step further down the road is, once we get the approval for it, how are we going to maintain the operation? Where's that money gonna come from? Maybe we're gonna put a lot of dependence on Joy and her ability to get some grants. But, I think that planning department needs to do some research in preparation for that time. So Jim, are you withdrawing your request for travel?
Yes.
Withdraw my motion.
Can I comment?
Okay.
Sure. There's benefits as you know, aware, but are we ready for it? I concur and feel the same way as Kenny. I don't want to hurt it. At least look at it, and is it realistic? Can we do it or not? And gonna commit to it. But I think we need to strategize this new year here. What are the priorities when it comes down to it? Because as I mentioned, things are tight, and they are. And what do we want to accomplish if it's one thing? There's some things coming down the track, I think, like Kenny just mentioned, those kind of things, and I think we're going to meet later this week, if I recall, about these kind of things. So that's where I'd like to see us to regroup and see what's within our grasp and what's affordable. Without saying no, let's look at it. And then, like this one here, it's just the added costs, our building. What did we get ourselves into? And we gotta look at things like everything like that. I just wanna mention that, Council.
You can look at, they got two tribes that have radio stations. You take a look at the problem they have generating money. That would be closer to us. But you gotta see the benefits to the people by viewing those projects.
But are you thinking about Rosebud and Pine Ridge?
Yeah.
Okay, Joey's withdrawn her motion. Any other further discussion on the subject?
What is the motion, Mr. Chair?
The motion was to allow travel for Jim to go to Durango, but he withdrew his request.
He's withdrawing his request to go?
Wait, since you're down in that area, you wanna go?
No.
Get your skis.
Cut.
Kill two birds with one stone, dude.
Cut.
Probably there anyway.
There, more bang for a buck over there.
Cut.
Okay, we'll move on here. Item 3, BK land transfer update.
Okay.
I'll turn this over.
Good morning, everyone, again. Last week, Jim and I had spoken to Patty Marks from the DC office on, 2 separate occasions, and she was trying to, get in contact with the tribe to provide an update on the land bill that was introduced last week by King. Yeah. And then so sometime late last week, we got the memo, and Teresa, printed that out. And so, what Patty wanted to, I guess the exciting news was that the bill was actually introduced by King, and that King had upheld his kind of, his commitment to the tribe to work with us. There was also some updates, and you'll find this all in the memo, but I'll just go through my notes that there's gonna be a new chair, new staff. Next week, formerly the new chairs of the committees will be named. As the memo states, there's some really positive aspects about the leadership coming in with the Democrats, having the majority, with some of the staffers coming in that are supportive of indigenous issues. And so it was all kind of falling into place as with the right players kind of that support the tribe. Additionally, we'd have a bill number by next week, but we see that we got a bill number now. And what she really kind of wanted to put out there was for us to start thinking about a delegation that would go out sometime this month, possibly the week of January 14th or the week of January 28th, to not only meet the new, some of the new people in place, but also to touch base with some of the ones that we've already spoken to, and we continue to just kind of educate them and keep them up to date. And we've made progress with wildlife and parks and some of the payment platforms and things that we're concerned. And so we've done our part, and we just need to keep kind of staying on it to keep them informed. We also need the Army Corps to go on record, and so there's all these kind of just issues that need to play out, but we also want to stay on top of them. One of the things that could change during this Congress is that right now our issues go to a subcommittee called the Natural Resources, Insular, something or other, and there's leadership that would like to have it go straight to the Natural Resources Committee, which would be good for us because that's one less hurdle that we have to go through to get a bill passed. So that's good. Pelosi's in place, fuller action to have Democratic caucus to meet to lead committee chair. We'll have subcommittees. Let's see, we also learned that we still have the same leadership in place at the Omaha Army Corps of Engineers office, but we still want to make sure that we're in contact with them and, kind of sending the right message that they're in support, but they're not going to, they're in support, but they're also not gonna do it for us. It seems like been the kind of note all along. Matt Eady was going to be working on getting Grassley to support this, and Senator Grassley from Iowa is the, I guess, the more promising approach. Senator Ernst was once going to be the one to do it, but there was feeling that one of her staffers was the one that was kind of empowering the Army Corps, and it just, and Patty's memo kind of states that about, you know, they felt like they were being attacked by us, saying, you know, you had no right to even take that land in the first place. But we just like work through that and different personalities, and as long as we have the support of our congressional folks, I think her memo said something about, you know, people making comments above their pay grade, and so we've got the right individuals. We're in contact with the right individuals. So I guess the takeaway is that Patty would like to see us be thinking about who will be willing to make the trip out, kind of at a moment's notice this month, to possibly make our rounds with the delegation, meet with Tara Sweeney, who is the new secretary or director of Department of Interior, and we did get a chance to meet with her during NCAI. The tribe had a one-on-one meeting with her, and as an introductory to her office and to, you know, what we're doing here, what we're working on, some of our law enforcement issues, and it was just kind of like a meet and greet. So it would be good to follow up now with our land issues. So we just kind of touched on, you know, what's going on, and during NCAI, she took a handful of meetings. So that's kind of the action item for this first land transfer update, but I just want to thank the council for everything that they've done to get to this point. Danelle also, I think, is going to be involved in this, and that was one of the things when she took her new position. There were a few projects that she was involved in that she kind of see through, and this is one of those projects. So it's historical. I'm hoping Chairman is able to join the delegation, and this is going to be something really big for the tribe to get this land back. And it would be amazing if we could all go, you know, but I don't know if that's realistic. But so just be thinking about that, and according to Patty's memo in the phone call, it's kind of like as the pieces and the players are moving out there, and these subcommittees are set up, and the committees and people are put in their place, and moving offices and all that, we want to be the first hearing on the top of their agenda. And so that's what she's pushing for on her end, and she'd just kind of like us to be ready on our end as well. The memo kind of says it all, but I just wanted to share that Jim and I talked to her, and I don't know, Jim, if you have anything else you want to add from your guys' conversation.
No, just like what she had in the memo as far as, but, you know, for the tribe to make our presence known when we go out there and meet these new committee members, and to try to, you know, bring them up to date on our efforts. You know, we've been doing this for a long time. Way back when Louis and them guys sued the Corps of Engineers, you know, it's been that long. And then they were successful, and then now we have an opportunity to get that land back. But, you know, we just have to have that sponsorship, and King has done that. But also, like Patty was saying, on the Senate side, Ernst, and then that senior leadership Grassley has. You know, he's one of the senior leaders in that Senate side. And so if we could, you know, get him to co-sponsor, I'd have a little more clout. And then, you know, like what Tori was saying about Ernst's staffers, you know, bringing those staffers that really didn't have that wherewithal to issue a statement, you know, kind of setting this thing on hold, you know, that kind of threw everything off. So that's why they were recommending gain Grassley support. So, and then to go out there, and then you know, she could set up a tour of visiting all those committee people on both sides of the Congress side and then the Senate side, to meet all of those parties that are going to be involved in advancing this bill forward.
Victoria, you have some dates?
The two proposed, the week of January 14th or the week of January 28th are what Patty's thinking in terms of timeline. But also just kind of playing it by ear, the week of January 28th is the president, or the union address, or what's it called?
State of the
State
Union.
State of the Union.
22nd, I think.
So they're just
22nd, yeah.
kind of like looking at as things move and what can be accomplished by then. But she just wants us to be kind of the first order of business, and hoping that we could be ready. And so I'm sure on their end they'll start drafting testimony and be sharing that with the council. So that's all I have for that one, but if there would be some type of motion that would take care of all that, I don't know how we capture that, but can maybe travel pending
Authorized travel.
Authorizing travel for,
Travel
Winnebago
council.
travel delegation to Washington DC,
I'll second.
visiting the natural resources, all the committees, subcommittees. Natural resource committees, yeah, it's relates to, our land. Specifically the Iowa land, right?
Mhm.
Something like that.
Second.
Did you second?
Wrong,
Oh.
second.
Dates to be determined yet.
Mm.
Yeah.
Who's second?
There you
Okay, there's been a motion, second, to authorize travel for, any interested, DC members to be available to travel.
Travel delegation, yeah.
Discussion? As part of the discussion, yeah, I would encourage, much of us to be involved in it. You know, as you read the memorandum, you know, Fortenberry hasn't been very supportive of, some of the tribe's efforts in the past, and it's indicated in the memorandum. And I believe that, you know, we need to play the politics with the politicians and, knock on some of the offices in DC. Get to know the people that hopefully will help us in the future. And how exactly this is gonna evolve, I'm not sure yet. Last year, we were preparing ourselves to travel up there in short notice. I think it was the same time last year. But we'll see how this develops. So, there's been a motion, second, any discussion on it?
I know Benny come in a little late. Last year when they were, before he was up for election, Senator Steve King from Iowa sponsored a bill, drafted a bill for us to return that 1,200 acres down on the bottomlands in Iowa.
On the river?
Yeah, and so then with his re-election, now he's gonna reintroduce that. He's supposed to do it last Thursday.
Yeah.
For us to get that land back, so we're working on that, and then wanna send a delegation to go to meet with those various committees that were gonna, give us the okay on that, you know.
Yeah.
And then to also to meet with,
On this side,
yeah. So then you know, get that support.
but we're okay on the other side.
Yeah, the 1,200 acres that is within that, lease agreement with, the state of Iowa, DNR, 2,800 acres, but 1,200 of that is, on the south side is ours, part of that, earlier litigation. So, we're gonna get that, trying to get that finalized, get that land back.
Yeah. And since we're on that subject down there, I just wanted to mention to the council that, you know, further north, if you're on the east side of the river, to the border, there's, like, probably 10 acres there, which probably some of you don't know about, but there's a piece up there. You know, it intersects with the river, and then
Mm-hmm.
And that belongs to us too.
Yeah, and we got that, they did a survey.
You
Ron-
probably know
Yeah,
about it.
Ron, we had that surveyed, so
Yeah.
it's all up to date right now. We put in those new, the benchmarks and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So they had that, so we did a survey that, so we have the latest and the greatest survey. All I had.
Any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? No objections, motion passed 8-0. Those that are interested, you can give your name to Teresa, then we'll be in contact with Patty. So you all received a Christmas gift. It was a package, so start packing.
Pack it up.
I gave mine away.
I'm out, burnt mine out. I was trying to use it last week. I was trying to use it last week. Ain't coming back.
Gordon's getting it back.
Okay, next item. VK, February 2019 STAC meeting approval, travel.
So my next item is, we've received an email notice and information on the next agenda for the Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Tribal Advisory Committee. And this is a fully reimbursed, trip by the HHS. One of the things that I will note though, that is, as we're working through this shutdown, many of these committees, are kinda on standby as well. I know the Budget Formulation Committee is meeting in January sometime, and they're kinda just waiting to see if these travels will happen, so, and I hope that we're back in business by then, but there could be, this trip may not happen if we're not approved budget, so, but on our end, I just still need to ask the council to, so those arrangements can be made when available.
Move it. Second.
Then a motion and second to approve of travel for VK, February 2019. Discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed 8-0. VK, second annual Tribal Green Symposium discussion.
The next item is an opportunity that was shared with us a few weeks ago. We had some visitors stop by. They had stopped by unannounced, so the council was not around, but I was able to meet them, and they were presenting some opportunities that may be available surrounding the hemp and other opportunities. And as you know, the Farm Bill just had some changes to it that opened up opportunities, and so as we begin to talk about those, learn about those types of things, that group that stopped by are putting on this event and are inviting tribes. One of the things that I had shared with the council a couple years ago was that I really am cautious about, who are the hosts of these events and what their intentions are with the tribes. And I'd say that there are some that are, tribally friendly, and some that are really predatory in nature. And so I would just like to, I guess the opportunity to set up a call with these folks later this week, and also I'd like to follow up and attend their event and hear what they have to say about some of the projects that they have in motion in Nebraska. And so, although it might be premature to go into those anything specifically, I just would encourage us to keep our eyes and ears open and kind of pick up the pace with our learning curve.
I'm kinda glad you mentioned that, because I wanna know what kind of protocol we're gonna use, because there's gonna be all kinds of people coming to our door wanting to do this, and what's gonna be the greatest for us. How do we sort that out? And everybody's gonna paint a pretty picture, and it's easy to fall for one of them, but only to find out we didn't make the best choice. I'm concerned about the protocol we'll use. And I hope it includes all of us when we make that decision, who we wanna go with. So we can all take the praise if it's good, or we can all take the blame if it's bad. But I really think that's important, that we make the right choice.
Well, I plan on having that discussion Thursday.
Okay.
That's gonna be part of our meeting subjects. We're gonna talk about it. So we're all on the same page, that's all.
So,
And Mr. Chairman, they're having a meeting, down in Lincoln with, Senator Justin Wayne out of Omaha, and then he's gonna be sponsoring a hemp bill, you know, and then, so then when the session opens on January 9th, then they have until, I think, January 23rd or 22nd to introduce their bills. So there's a couple of others that, they will be drafting up, you know, what's gonna be the statutes for the state of Nebraska. And that's one of the things that we always have to look at is that, you know, what will be in place with the state as far as their statutes are concerned, you know, because of what would happen to the tobacco raid and things like that, you know, all within the current laws at that time, but then because of their interpretation, you know, then they talked the feds into going after it, plus the influence of the big tobacco companies, you know, they made that raid. So they gotta make sure what the regulations are with the federal level, and then also what the statutes will be at the state level, so that we won't be in violation of anything. As far as that farm bill, in that language of that farm bill, is that the states and tribes may adopt their statutes according to hemp, but then you gotta submit it to USDA for approval. So that process will be, they gave us a contact, Mr. Grignon from Wisconsin, I believe he's on the Chippewa tribe, and we could probably get in contact with him and you know, maybe set up a conference call for when we have that discussion the other, maybe Thursday. Probably Don Wesley from O'Hara and probably Blair McDonald probably attending that meeting this morning. And is anybody going down to the state of the state address?
Luncheon?
Hmm?
Oh, no, that's different.
I thought it was you and Kenny. Yeah, we also have to remember that we're occupying two states. We're in two states, so possibly Iowa would be more receptive to anything. Okay. Any other discussion on this?
Do we vote on a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, travel to go to that. So you're moving it, I'll second it.
I move it, yeah.
You moved it. And you second her?
Yes.
Then motion second to approve travel to the, second annual Tribal Green Symposium. Any further discussion? Any objections? Motion passed 8-0-0.
Alright, the next item is also for consideration. It's the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development Reservation Economic Summit, and that's in March. And so I've kind of had this on my radar since I went to the event in October and got that cool award. And this is kind of like I look at it as kind of the mecca of Indian enterprise. And
It is.
I've never attended this conference, I've always wanted to, and with kind of some of the things that I'm interested in now in terms of this cannabis, you know, every conference that I've been to in the past several years has a track on it, has a session on it, or has, you know, something on it, like NCAI, what's that other one, the finance, what's the finance, tribal finance one, what is that called again, where's that one at? Anyway, like everyone's kind of got their finger on the pulse, and as this new farm development, I guess I have no doubt that there'll be some type of concentration on this area, and I want to meet these people, and I want to like Kenny said, vet out who's not, in line with maybe the things that we're trying to do, and so, just another part of gathering information and being at the table.
I'll move.
What is it, it's called Res,
Yeah.
2019.
Approval of travel for any, interested council member? Paula, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed, 8-0.
Alright, thank you. Alright, my next item is about the government shutdown. Last week, IHS held a all tribes call. In addition, NIHB followed up the next day with a stakeholders call, and they had IHS on the line. And so some of the things that, you may have read in your email from Danelle, she provided an update to us, but it, last week, when I was on that first call, there was some things that were alarming, and so IHS was holding this call to kind of, an update on what this means for IHS and what this means for your tribal facility. And, one of the major problems is that IHS, majority of HHS is, was funded in 2019, but the ones that weren't funded in advance appropriations, or IHS, FDA, NIH, some divisions of the CDC. And so the problem without advance appropriations in the event of a shutdown, we're without, a budget. Whereas the VA, for instance, is a recipient of advance appropriations, so their shutdown is not impacting them at all. So that's troubling, since tribes continue to advocate for that pathway, because we wouldn't be in the circumstances we are in right now. So, one of the things that they talked about was that much of the IHS administration at this time are, on pause. Many of the training, travel, oversight, and all the advisory committees, like I'd mentioned, are also, on a case-by-case basis. One of the things that they talked about were terms, kind of definitions of activities, and tribal and urban are considered to be accepted, and that was really, that was bad for us, because if you're accepted, that means that you have to work but you can't get paid. If you're exempt, or exempt versus accepted. And so IHS originally told us that we were accepted, and we learned from Danelle's update that we are now considered exempt. And what that comes down to is, are you working for free or are you getting a paycheck? And we learned that our IPAs are now going to be getting a paycheck, because on the call they said, if you have a tribal self-governance compact, right now there's no money coming forward. Well, Winnebago, we were in somewhat decent shape because we had that funding we got up front, so we're okay right now. But that's not the instance of every self-governance tribe that had kind of seed money to start with, like we do right now. So they said, well, everyone will continue to work, but you're either exempt or you're accepted. And many of our local employees were nervous, because that means they have no money coming in, and many of our BIA employees and relatives are kind of in the same boat. So the update is that our IPA people will be getting paid, and the question was, if you're a self-governance tribe and you have third-party revenue, can you use that third-party revenue to pay all your people and then get reimbursed? And they said no. And so that's really, that's not an answer or a solution for our tribal communities, especially ones that might even have other resources that they could shift around. There would be no path for them to be reimbursed. And I guess when this happened previously, they didn't get reimbursed either. They talked about PRC and the issue with PRC, and with that not also being mandatory funding, it's appropriated every year. So you could continue to send out all your PRC, but without the budget, you don't really know what's coming back, and they're not going to reimburse that. And then since no one's working right now, all that PRC kind of files would just be sitting there. So then that's a domino effect of these doctors and these facilities not being paid, and we've already experienced some of that with our lack of third-party revenue. So we already know kind of the bad stuff that is at the end of this trail, and why we continue to kind of be at the table and be on these calls so that we know what's going on. Grant statuses, payments, the payment management system will currently continue to accept grant applications, but they're not being processed. If there were previously funded grants that are already on track, those will continue to be funded. They talked about SDPI, the Special Diabetes Program for Native Americans, and the president tried to put that into, what did they try to put it into? Not advanced appropriations. So anyway, Congress pushed back, and so SDPI is the only program right now that is continuing to be funded that is not advanced appropriations. So that's something that is good for Indian country because it's such an important program for our diabetes patients. But we want to keep pushing back and say we want all of our funding to be like SDPI because we wouldn't be in this circumstance. I'm going to pass out a memo right now from NIHB. This was the call they had last week. So much of what I'm saying right now is kind of in this document.
Cool.
And we had an update from Katrin Shai from Congressional Relations, and she has relationships on the Hill and are just also looking for feedback from tribes on what is happening in our communities to report back to Congress. So they're doing some of that collecting. On the right side, recently, September 13th, the Government Accountability Office, known as GAO, released a report, and there was great support for the benefits of advance appropriations. And so, like I said, the president request to move SDPI to annual appropriations didn't happen this year, but that doesn't mean that that threat won't continue to surface. Let's see, there was concern from Chief Malerba, and she's the chair of the Self-Governance Advisory Committee, and she was saying, how can you say IHS direct service facilities are continuing to operate, but urban and tribal self-governance facilities have no funding coming through? How can you make that distinction and draw the line between healthcare? And IHS response was, by Dr. Tote, the chief medical officer from IHS headquarters, was, hey, we're all hurting here, and what's happening right now is happening on the backs of Commission Corps officers and, federal employees that aren't being paid. So they wanted to make the note that no one's really trying to say this is us and them, but we find that many times it's an us and them kind of situation.
Right.
So, let's see. Also, I have a letter here that I wanted to pass out for consideration, and they're asking that tribes send this letter to their congressional folks, and it's asking for their support to end this shutdown. And also in the last paragraph, it talks about advanced appropriations and using the most recent GAO report as kind of the for that to happen. So I guess I'm just kind of carrying on now, but this this NIHB notes from our call will kind of detail what I've shared. But the greatest news came in Danelle's email about us getting exempt instead of accepted, and that means people are getting paid. And I guess my last request would be that I guess your support for me to keep calling into these calls. There's another call I think today at noon I saw in Danelle's email, and also if the chairman would be willing to send this letter from your office. Do you want me to read it for the people or for the record or anything? Okay, it says, Dear Senator or Representative, on behalf of Tribe, I write to encourage you to work with congressional leadership to end the partial government shutdown. As you are aware, the Indian Health Service and other federal agencies serving Indian country have been impacted by this unnecessary and reckless shutdown. As it drags out on day after day, American Indians and Alaska Natives who rely on IHS-funded health programs are suffering from lack of access to care. The lives of our people should not be held hostage by unrelated political battles in Washington. at, and so then there's a space for you to say at perhaps Winnebago, and then put a story on how this is impacting your community or what's kind of, what you see coming down the line, in terms of lack of services or preventing the delivery of healthcare. The federal promise to provide Indian health service was made a long time ago. Since the earliest days of the Republic, all branches of the federal government have acknowledged the nation's obligation to the tribes and their special trust relationship between the United States of America and American Indians and Alaska Natives. The United States assumed this responsibility through a series of treaties with tribes exchanging compensation and benefits for tribal land in peace. In other words, we have prepaid for health services, as it is unconscionable that our people continue to suffer because of the failure of Congress and the President to enact the FY 2019 appropriations. In 2010, Congress reaffirmed the duty of the federal government to American Indians and Alaska Natives, declaring it is the policy of this nation in fulfillment of its special trust responsibilities and legal obligations to Indians to ensure the highest possible health status for American Indians and urban Indians, and to provide all resources necessary to effect the policy. Yet sadly, this has not happened. So that excerpt is from the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act. After the shutdown is over, we also encourage you to support IHS advance appropriations so that we can avoid this catastrophe for our people's health. For years, the tribes have advocated that IHS funding be appropriated a year in advance. The Government Accountability Office recently released a report which details the benefits of IHS advance appropriations. We think this is the perfect opportunity for Congress to finally enact IHS advance appropriations so that our people do not suffer from the unstable discretionary appropriations process. If you have any questions, please contact blah, blah, blah. So, right now, not that it's ever great, but the timing of that GAO report is kind of positive that there could be some movement and there's some action around, why this is, and in lieu of the, or in the midst of the shutdown, I think that GAO report was released at the right time as kind of some leverage to consider advance appropriations. And also, like, time and time again, they always say, like the VA, and that's like the sister agency to IHS, and the most, even though we're not equal, that's the comparison that's always made when it comes to IT, when it comes to PRC, it's always like the VA, and even though the VA is not perfect or what it should be for our veterans, they're in better shape typically than IHS is. Wow. So that's all I have on that. I just wanted to share what we had on those calls, and I'll share whatever else I learned from NIHB and also from the IHS calls. And if and I'd like to make a motion for us to send this letter to our congressional folks.
I think,
Been a motion,
second.
Second, discussion.
Okay, and, as far as affecting all the Indian country, our local BIA and IHS employees, our law enforcement, and then also, put the granddaughter back to, Landrew boarding school. That's a government funded facility, so they're not being paid, and they're kinda getting scared because they have mortgage payments, they have car payments, they have children in school, so, they're just going paycheck to paycheck, so they get, the Flandreau Santee tribal government at first was thinking about, paying them, their wages, but, when that ruling came out that they wouldn't be able to get reimbursed, and they kind of backed off. So they're really sweating it right now because their next payday is, January 10th. They got paid on the 28th, and then it's scheduled payday of January 10th. So hopefully, our congressional leaders will get this letter out ASAP and try to hopefully, plead with our congressman and senator to reach some kind of a compromise so the government can get back to operating. It's affecting a lot of people, over 400,000 government employees, plus state parks and all the things that are funded by the government.
Question?
I would like to get a copy of that so I could send them to
I'll give you,
some sort of tribal.
I can give you a hard copy, but I can also email one to you.
I have a question. I've been approached, I guess, by in our transportation, I guess bottom line, is our transportation department not getting paid?
They're all right.
They're okay,
Yeah,
that's
they're
what I
good.
thought, but
They're good to go.
he was telling, and then his dad came to me, and I was like, I don't think so, but I just wanna make sure. Put that out there, yeah.
I can address that one. Because the transportation.
Alan, you gotta go to
Thank you. I can address the transportation department, because their funding, they get the way that their grant funding is written, they have to spend any of their non-grant funding first before they can access the grant funds. So we still have money coming in for their fares, they charge per ride that comes in from the casino and from people who ride, so they have to spend that money first, so their funding is secure. They have more than enough to cover that, so we're good.
No,
Thank you.
the WCHS transportation.
Oh, the WCHS transportation, they're all covered. They're all covered through the for our employees through their compact. Thank you. And then I found out on, I believe it was Friday afternoon from Danelle that IHS has determined that the IPA employees, the IHS employees, are considered essential personnel, so they're still going to get paid.
Okay, there's been a motion second concerning the letter that Tori read to us all. Any further discussion on this subject?
Yeah. Questions for Tori. I couldn't hear it so good, you know, but I was gonna ask her, you know, what kind of impact of the shutdown does it have on all of us, the tribe in general?
In general, even though some of our employees are we learn now that they'll be exempt, a prolonged shutdown would impact us because we have families that, like perhaps at the BIA, that are not working right now and are furloughed, and so we're not feeling the brunt of it yet, but the longer this drags out, some of our individual homes would start feeling it, and then the president made threats on the news that he'd take it on for years, you know, and that would crumble our systems that, you know, don't have enough money to kind of front the money. Also, there was a comment made that years ago during the last shutdown, some tribes had to go seek lines of credit to continue their services, and that wasn't reimbursed by reimbursable expense, and the cost of that credit wasn't reimbursable. So we're not there yet, but those are what are kind of like the gloom that's in the future the longer this drags out.
Our programs are okay with operational at this point?
Right now, we're okay right now, but the longer it drags out.
Whether they have a grant or otherwise?
Right. And also, some of them that kind of, I guess the way we say it is draw down, some of them that had money that was already allocated, that's available, but anything new or that's in the pipeline is just kind of stopped. And what I had mentioned about the PRC, that's something that if you have a serious health condition, you know, that I could see would be concerning, because yeah, we'll continue to send you out for PRC, but then on our end, those bills are just gonna like stack up because there's nobody at the agency processing those. And so things like that we might not think of as immediate threats could be damaging to, you know, the relationships that we have with some of the providers in the tri-state area.
I know that, you know, we have a lot of business that we have to do with the BIA, you know, and I know you don't have any control over that, but you know, the thing of it is, we need the BIA, so therefore it's shut down too, along with the shutdown.
Right, so those services and people that maybe need to call out there and have questions or interested in their lease income, and so yeah, all that.
Monies, you know, the monies that come out of there, you know, and they can't get it because of the shutdown.
Right. So that is impacting, I
I'm
guess.
just speaking, you know, for us, you know. All right, yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion on the, motion? Any objections to the motion? Motion passed 8-0. Next item, CSNCIA appointment to board.
Council, I asked to put this on, actually it's a reappointment. It's the Nebraska Commission on Indian Affairs. I am currently, well, was on there, but my term expired. I sit on that commission with Kenny as our representative from our tribe, and it's just a reappointment. I was notified by Judy Piashkabo, who is the executive director.
Pardon?
No, I just explained the reappointment to the Nebraska Commission on Indian Affairs.
Okay. Kenny will be back on, reappoint, or just you, just one, or?
I was just notified, I don't know if you were notified, I don't think.
Well, Louis' grandson, oh no, I'll take that back. That don't have anything to do with that. Curtis is on a 3-year term. And I don't know why, I've been on there longer than Curtis, and I don't know if I just got put back on yet or not. But Curtis's term is up, and,
They haven't been on this for years.
he's been on 3 years. What did Judy say today?
I just talked to her staff secretary. She was brand new, so she didn't know.
I don't know, but, I just saw where Curtis's position was up.
Mhm.
And I sent her an email, I said, since when is his term up? I thought he was on there until the council decided they wanted to change candidate or representative on that. And I haven't gotten anything yet from Judy, so I don't really know Kurt.
Did he replace somebody that, was,
Yeah, he replaced, Louis. He replaced Louis, when Louis didn't get back on the council. So that's why I'm thinking, why is his term up if he replaced Louis? I think it's up to the council to decide when they wanna replace someone. Just like it is up to them when there's a vacancy.
That'd be about 3 years in, wouldn't it?
yeah, be about like that.
I was hoping she would call me before this got in, this would get this part of the agenda, but it hasn't. I know Lucas, his grandson, is resigned from the board, but that has to be the Omaha city Indians that decide who they wanna send. Cause he's an at-large representative from the city of Omaha. So it's the city's Indian population that has to select there. And Curtis, I don't know why they even pointed it out, that it was Curtis's position that was up.
Move it.
I
Second.
guess I would just put a hold on it until we get better clarification.
Well, we'll just go through the exercise. There was a motion, second. The motion was to reappoint Curtis. Jim?
Yeah. To Nebraska Commission on Indian Affairs.
Okay.
Who's
Any
second?
further discussion? Rollins second. Any objections to the motion?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, call for vote in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes? No? Abstention? 2. Motion passed 6-0-2.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, that deserves lunch.
Yeah.
Next item, FY annual legislative luncheon update and approved travel.
Was it 652?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to,
602, yeah.
pardon?
No, it's like,
I'd like to make a comment before we finish up this last item. Louis and I attended a relative's funeral this past weekend, and Vincent Bass donated 4 quarts of Indian corn to that funeral. And it was quality corn, and I told them who it came from, and that they were gonna let Vincent know how much they appreciated it. But also, I let them know that we support Vincent in a lot of ways in producing that. He's just a small little operation of his own, and he really struggled to get all the corn brought in with the weather the way it was and the lack of help that he didn't get a lot of volunteer help like CI got. They got corn for what they helped do, and Academy got money for helping out. Now, Vincent didn't have anything to give to the people, but he still got enough produced to where he gives, at every funeral, he gives 4 quarts of corn from his little project. I think we need to, as a council, recognize the effort that he put in, and I'm certainly gonna be supportive of any kind of endeavor he has down the road. He's thinking big.
Yeah.
Out in that 40 acres out there, and I wouldn't hold back to anything. So I just want you to know, you had a role to play in Vincent's contribution to that funeral, and I wanna thank all of you, and thanks is going out to Vincent too for all that he did. The corn was good. Anyway, on this next subject, Mr. Chairman, I called Lance when I saw this, I saw the agenda and what it was gonna be. And I told Lance, I'm not gonna go to that, cause I don't care to go down there and face a bunch of hypocrites. Them people were all part, maybe they didn't tell, well, they did. Maybe they weren't part of the federal people that raided it, but they sure orchestrated it. And why should, I said, Lance, why should you go down there and face a whole bunch of hypocrites and them act friendly to you? When they sat back and saw that happen, I'm not going there simply because of that reason. I can't have nothing to say to those people. So I'm not gonna be part of this. I'm not telling you people not to be, but I'm not gonna be there.
Good point, Kenny, and those that went down, you may have heard that some of the newly elected officials for the state, they didn't know that they had Indians in Nebraska. The state legislatures, some of them, they didn't know that there was Indians in Nebraska. And then they didn't know where Winnebago is.
Yeah. One of them even asked, can you get there by car?
Yeah.
Not that bad.
And I realize what the lobbyist is trying to do, but, I feel the same way that Kenny does, is that, if they really wanted to know us, they'd come up here and visit with us. And I've had second thoughts about going down there because I've been down there the last 3 times, and I didn't think it was very productive. Some of them, they choose to ignore, the many situations that we have here on the reservation. And plus, the sandwiches aren't that great anyway.
And you can know that they're gonna be in line to try to tell us where to go and what to do when this hemp production comes up. They're gonna try to put us in line and tell us, well, this is where you fit in. And it may be, after all the big companies get their shot at it, that we get to pick up the crumbs. And I don't wanna be there for that either. Lance said he's trying not to go. He's trying to see if Dan will go.
Well, I guess, as far as going down there and educating the legislators about Winnebago, and who we are, and what we're about, you know, then they always use the Winnebagos as an example of what you can do, you know, with our previous councils here, you know, suing the Corps of Engineers, and everybody told them you can't sue, you can't win against the Corps of Engineers, and they won. We got our land back down the rivers, and then, again, when they sued the power company, were putting those highlands through tribal land like that, and then they sued them, and then they won. So we gotta go down there and let them know who we are and what we're about and how many members we have, what our employment is and what we're doing, and, you know, as far as economics and, you know, with HCI, but also at that same time, that original ruling where Lance based the tobacco tax was issued by a former state attorney general and also a former state treasurer, Don Steinberg, is that when the Omahas opened up their tobacco plant back in the 80s, and then he ruled that because of the tribe, because of their high unemployment and their lack of resources, that the tribe's need was greater than the state's. So that's what they based upon that original ruling. Now this current attorney general, and he went off on his own, interpreted it a different way. And a lot of our state legislatures, they didn't know about that. They were doing that between the attorney generals and the U.S. Attorney's Office, you know, and getting that. So they were kind of halfway unaware themselves that the big tobacco companies were putting a lien on the state of Nebraska as far as those master settlement agreements come off to, you know, about $40 million a year. So that's a big amount of cash that the state gets. So, but we need to go down there and, you know, express our concerns, you know, as far as tribal sovereignty and all these issues of what's happening down there in this year's legislature, especially with hemp, and then also a discussion about medical marijuana. We passed that legislation in Iowa, so, you know, what are the tribes doing over there? So we have land in Iowa, so find out what the Tamas and the Omahas are doing with that. But, you know, we gotta let them know who we are, where we are. We had the tribe. We were the first ones to have TANF with the state of Nebraska. We were the first ones to have expanded our service area into Dakota County, Woodbury County. So, you know, then we have our law enforcement agreements and, you know, with our state courts. And then also because of that state courts and then those, the ruling between the relationship between the tribal courts and the state courts and the federal agencies, and that's why we got a lot of funding. That's why they're doing this highway project, because there's a way to resolve any issues that come into play, so that they will be settled in federal court. So that's all of that. We have all of that place, and that's why we get federal funds. You know, plus the background that we have as far as, you know, with our finances and the audits and everything being in compliance. That's why we can do these things.
Curtis.
You know, Lion de Loria said, if you want to be sovereign, you need to act sovereign. I always remember that quote, and it kind of comes down to this, you know, the stage is the limelight and all the positives and the good, you know, but the other side of the coin, you know, we're a resident. This is our homeland, and we control our destiny. So, for the record, I don't know if this is the stage, but we need to make it aware that we have a voice here. And I think there's some merit to that as well, what Kenny said about this ATF thing, you know. So, I go along with that. I agree with that. So, I don't know if this is a stage, but somebody going down there and to tell them, this is who we are.
Yeah, we need to go.
You know, we're Nebraskan. We're a tribe here. We have a voice. This is what we're trying to do for our people. And this is, we're trying to control our destiny. And the interference that we're getting doesn't get us anywhere, you know. So I think that's how I feel about it.
Correct.
Thanks. I was gonna say that I share the concern that Kenny shared and you, Chairman, but I kinda agree with what Curtis is saying, that, you know, some of these people aren't our friends, so we have to make them our friends and go and smile in their face a little bit and say what we have to say to the Republicans and say what we have to say to the Democrats, and always insist that our issues are bipartisan, that, I guess that in the midst of the ATF raid and the things that, weren't favorable to our community, that we kind of like go full force with, face the adversity and that other side of that coin that, we have all these wonderful things, but then they're still gonna say, oh, you guys are just a bunch of Indians, but I just think like we keep showing up and then we're down there and, we're just in their face in a good way and just let them know that we're working through this, and I really hope that we win that lawsuit so that we're kind of on top and flexing that sovereignty. And so I just want to say that, and I understand the dynamic that we work through, and sometimes they're just BSing, but we just have to keep doing it. And so.
And I agree with you and Curtis. I agree with you guys 100%. Because somebody has to tell them why we're not down there. They need to, well, where's the other ones? Is there just 2 of you, or is there just 3 of you? No, well, the other ones aren't here because of, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Mr. Chair.
The scheduled day here is January 15th.
Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
to go. Mr. Chair, I would like to reiterate what has already been said as far as our one of our elder tribal council members and his position as far as what has taken place when there was a raid on our reservation, and the feelings that he expressed to us. I agree, that a lot of that the Nebraska state legislative have they sat back and watched this take place. And then on the other hand, I hear what Jim has expressed, and the importance of going down there and letting them know that we're here, and that we should be sending a delegation. I agree with Curtis and Tori. I want to reiterate that, and I think that it's important that we go down there and show our face. And let these individuals know that we're part of this state. We have our sovereign rights, and that we will stand up for them. And we also want to have a relationship with this unicameral, this legislative government to government relationship. When we went to Wisconsin, the Ho-Chunk Nation, they do a lot of business with their state. And I asked the president, Willie Cleveland, I said, how'd you guys get like that? He said, it was a lot of work. He said, that it wasn't always like that. He said, we went at each other. But it was a lot of work, and it took us about 15 years, he said, to get it to where we're at today. So I would like to see us to go down that path so that we're working together with the state, and then these things that we want to do in the future, that the state would be supportive of what we're looking at to make the future better for our grandchildren, great grandchildren coming, so that when they get here, there's security and things look more prosperous for them. So I just kind of wanted to weigh in on that. Those are my thoughts on it. So I thank you all for listening.
I have some thoughts. When we started the college, we needed to have the northeast, the northward. The way we had it set up, we went to talk to the board, the 2 tribes. We knew they were going to be against us. But one of the white employees came and told us, you have a right as an Indian, and you have a right as a citizen of the state of Nebraska, and they can't turn you down for either purpose. when we got to the meeting, they were hammering us on the Indian side. And I told them, I'm not here as a Winnebago. I'm here as a citizen of the state of Nebraska. And you have a responsibility to me. It's to collect taxes. I vote. I do things as a Nebraska. And we're in your district. The Northeast has to do something for Indian people in the district. Well, they shut up and they voted in our favor. And that's how the tribal college got its start. So we can go to these meetings as a Winnebago and as a Nebraskan, and they have a responsibility to us. And shove it up there.
Whatchamacallit?
Slap them in the back. They don't know we're there. When I lobbied for retrocession and reburial legislation, it took 4 years. And I was appalled at the ignorance of those white people. We had to accept them for their ignorance and educate them. You asked them what the 4 tribes were in Nebraska. They couldn't tell you. That's what the original tribes in Nebraska, they couldn't tell you. They didn't know a damn thing about Indians. But they had a vote. Every one of those senators had a vote. And you had to get it. And one day, we found this old kind of cowboy senator. He was on our side. And one of these senators said, how in the world did you get Rex on your side? I said, I don't know. He's on our side. We treat him, tease him, we treat him good. And he brings his friends along. So we got a lot of those conservative senators who didn't know anything about Indians, didn't have any Indians in their district, but they punched the green button for retrocession, for reburial. So the burden is on us to show our side, our issue. Not take a back seat to anybody. And that's the way we, Paraguay and Watford and I crafted that legislation to make it work. And now they talk about the cross-deputy agreement, and Jim was talking. But it shows support. But that cross-deputy agreement was primarily set up to go around Clyde's story. With that agreement in place, Clyde's story didn't have a role to play. And we can work from strength and beat them. What I want to do is beat them. We can do it.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to allow travel to the annual legislative luncheon Lincoln, Nebraska.
Move it.
Second.
Been a motion, second to allow travel. Further discussion? Any objections? No objections, motion passed, 8-0. End of the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 10:58.
Second.
Been motion, second to adjourn. Any objections? No objections. Motion passed 8-0. We're adjourned at 10:58 a.m. We have a special meeting Friday at 9 a.m. on the budget. It shouldn't take long. Hopefully it won't take long. We've got a chance to review the budget.